Hello everyone, and welcome back to the Backlog Bunker. This week we're really only going to talk about Kingdom Hearts 2, because I'm starting to reach the Backlog Bunker event horizon, where I am simultaneously playing a couple of games that I'm not all that interested in, on top of the fact that I've been playing them for a while, so all the things I have to say about them are quickly starting to run out, and combined with the fact that I just have less time to play more games, so I don't even have time to play 5 hours of Final Fantasy to have something different to complain about every week. But luckily, I played a lot of Kingdom Hearts 2, so I have a lot to talk about. Of course, like I mentioned last week, I want to talk about the data organization and how I think that they fucking suck. To just continue with last time, let's start with Lexaeus. He's inconsistent and therefore he sucks. Sometimes when you block his drag move, it just doesn't do the reaction command, and I'm not sure what causes it to not happen or happen. Like, it works most of the time, but then it just makes the times where it doesn't work even more confusing. Though the one consistent part about that move is that you have to be close enough to Lexaeus to be able to block the attack and then do the reaction command after that. The only problem with that is that being close to Lexaeus really fucking sucks a lot of the time, because he has like a frame 5 command grab that he just throws out sometimes. But being far away from Lexaeus is also really bad, because a lot of his moves are unblockable. On top of the fact that they can just be really poorly communicated sometimes, especially when it comes to hitboxes. Like, his desperation move is him fucking doing a leap of faith into the ground, then doing a huge earthquake afterwards. But if you dodge the initial, like, hit of the earthquake, none of the subsequent hits hit you, even though it's just Sora standing there amongst a bunch of blocks that are constantly moving. So, half the time you can't even see what's going on, because the animation is playing, but you're actually getting hit by it. And so, you're expected to still be able to play the game, but not really. Good luck next time, asshole. He's at max power and you can't do anything about it. Which is actually why I kind of like Saïx's fight, because his Berserk form, you can actually stop before he goes into it. Not permanently, mind you, this is still a super boss, but it allows you to have a meaningful impact on what actions the boss takes, because whether or not the boss will go straight into the Berserk form is entirely dependent on whether you can get a finisher off in time. And unlike Vexen, where the boss literally cannot progress unless you hit him with a finisher, with Saïx, hitting him with a finisher early just makes the fight easier for you. It doesn't necessarily stop it or start it. And then, even when he's in his Berserk form, it's intense, but as long as you pay attention to what Saïx is doing, it's actually pretty decent to get through. Just do a couple of well-placed dodges and you're fine. My only problem with Saïx's fight is that you might be a little bit too fine, because the Berserk form is like really easy to get through. So easy, I did it on my first try. I'm trying to not let my limit cut knowledge affect my opinions of this fight too much, but it's really hard when the limit cut version of the Saïx fight is really just a better version of this one. You still have to manage his Berserk form, but instead of him just not doing anything for half the fight and then a Berserk form that's pretty tame, you get a Berserk form that's up your goddamn ass the entire time, and then eventually you have to actually work your way towards getting him down and then getting some damage in. Though for a different character who's also in Limit Cut, this one's way easier to not compare the two because they're just very different fights, and that's for Marluxia. Marluxia's fight in 2 has a very special gimmick where you have a Doom counter, but not like the Final Fantasy one where it goes down with time, like a Kingdom Hearts one where it goes down with number of times you're hit. And it's correlated with level, so if you're at level 99, then you can take the most number of hits possible. And that's Marluxia's whole gimmick. He has a handful of attacks that'll bring your counter down because they hit multiple times, and then, you know, if it hits 0 then you die, but you have to get through that to be able to beat the fight. Which sounds pretty tough, right? No, because, again, if you're at level 99, you can take the most number of hits possible, which is quite a lot by this fight's standards. I think the lowest I ever got in the middle of the fight was 20. I don't think I ever died to the Doom counter. I always died to my health going down. But then on top of that, Marluxia has a couple of attacks where if you're not hit after them, like if you're free after them, you can use a reaction command to get your count back up by like 13. Which might not sound like a lot, but outside of his desperation move, no attack that Marluxia is going to hit you with will ever go above like double digits. So much like Saïx, Marluxia is just way too easy. Though unlike Saïx, who had a lot of fun attacks to be able to dodge, Marluxia is just a lot of blocking and then you hit him. That's really it. Roxas is also pretty easy, but unlike the other two, I'm not sure how much easier he is than his initial fight. Because when I look at the literal things that Roxas is doing, like the actual attacks that he's using on me, they're way harder than they were in his original fight. But his original fight took me like 5 or 6 tries to get through, but I beat this one first try. So I don't know if the level disparity is just that big, or if I'm just better at doing the fight since I know what to expect now. But considering it's Roxas, one of the better boss fights in the whole game, it was still a very fun fight to do, even if it was pretty easy for me. Though I'll admit, it might be a little bit carried by Spectacle, because that music is just so good. It's so fitting. Can you believe they ruined this character in Kingdom Hearts 3? Can you believe it? And then finally, Xemnas. Now, if Xemnas was just his phase 1, I'd be pretty underwhelmed by it, because he doesn't really do a lot. He has a sword slashes that you block, and then sword slashes that you block, and then more sword slashes that you block, and then a shield that you block, and then sometimes you use desperation move in which you do his fucking reaction command and you get a lot of damage in. The real interesting part comes with his phase 2, where you fight him with Riku, like in the final boss. And honestly, I couldn't really tell you in specific detail what changed about it, because for the most part it just felt like a harder version of the actual final boss. But a harder version of a good boss is still a good boss. If anything, it kind of feels like the data version of this boss is what the critical mode version of this boss should have been. Because I said it before in the Backlog Bunker, I'm pretty sure, but critical mode in Kingdom Hearts 2 is not really all that hard. It's like kind of above normal, if even. But to wrap up the entire data organization, overall I am very underwhelmed, especially in comparison to Limit Cut. The data organization only has 3 good fights, Xemnas, Roxas, and Xigbar, and one of those fights, that being Roxas, I felt was way too easy. Then right below them are the 3 middling fights, that being Saïx, Marluxia, and Axel, where Axel was hard, but I thought he was fair enough, just kinda wonky in a lot of his moves. And then Saïx and Marluxia I've already gone over in this video. They have unique problems that drag them down, whereas Roxas was just too easy, but that was his only problem. And then with a whopping majority, we have 7 bad fights, with Larxene, Zexion, Vexen, Lexius, Luxord, Zaldin, and fucking Demyx. Compare this to Limit Cut, where there are only 2 bad fights, that being Luxord for having the same problem of being too gimmicky and sucking dick, and Larxene for just being way too easy. And even then, I would still call the Limit Cut version of Luxord's boss fight better, up until the Desperation move. The Desperation move is really what makes that fight suck, but before that, it's actually a way better version of his 2 fight. Luckily, this isn't the first time I've had a fan base hype something up, only for me to actually play through it and then be disappointed, and it won't be the last either, so I'm not really all that broken up about it. But I am a bit saddened that all the best super bosses in this series come from the 3rd game exclusively, because we have yet to talk about the Lingering Will, but spoiler alert, I don't think he's that good either. I found the Lingering Will to be pretty underwhelming. Not to say that he was easy, but just that he's hard in a very strange way. There seems to be very few distinguishable patterns in when you're able to attack him, because sometimes he'll do his flying sweep move, and then when he's on his way down, which is your signal to start moving up to him so you can attack him when he lands, he'll just start doing his fucking whip move that you can't escape from unless you're already dodging. Or alternatively, if you block it, then you have to dodge afterwards, which you will find out the hard way. Another thing he'll do randomly is sometimes just retaliate faster. There were a couple of times where I would hit him after he was done doing an attack or whatever, and I'd be able to get 2 full combos off on him before I had to back off. But then there were other times where I can only get 1 full combo off on him, and then he can fucking hit me for it. And then of course, that's not to mention all the times where he'll end an attack 50 meters away from you, so you're just not going to be able to catch up to him by the time he recovers. Nothing has made me appreciate 3's improvements to movement more than Lingering Will constantly running away from you or abusing you. God, I miss air stepping. God, I miss blocking in midair. It was all just so much better then, man. If I get midair juggled by that fucking bike move again, I'm gonna lose myself. But then I beat him, I got all the trophies, and now I have a 100% in Kingdom Hearts 2. Which means that we get to move on to the weekly topic, which is Engagement Optimized Matchmaking, or EOMM for short. There are good and in-depth videos out there about EOMM. The one from Design Frame in particular is one that I'm really interested in because it informs a lot of my perspective on this topic. But the massive TLDR is that there are a lot of systems in place that are made to study how you play the game and how often you play the game and when you play the game and how often you get off the game and how often other people get off the game and stop playing the game forever, that basically determine how they're going to assign matches to you that will get you to play the game for as long as humanly possible. So basically, you queue up for a game of ranked, and instead of placing you with people that are among your skill level, they'll instead place you with people that will make you play the game for longer, whatever that might mean. It might mean placing you with better teammates that you're riding high off of a win and you want to keep playing the game, or it might mean placing you with worse teammates that you go, oh, just one more game, and then you want to keep playing. The system will take whatever actions are going to be most beneficial to making you personally stay on the game for longer, because your habits are being analyzed and being fed back to you in the form of whatever matches that you get. And I'm not gonna lie to you gamers, that feels a little bit dystopian. I've never been one to rail all that hard against the use of data for advertisements and stuff like that, because if the idea has always been oh, they're gonna advertise you things that you want, then yeah, okay, if I'm gonna get advertisements for video games because I like playing video games, then I'm just going to buy video games, because that's what I was already doing. I don't think it's all that dystopian to show me a thing that I would want to buy and then I buy it. If purchases were being made automatically based on our habits, then I would have a problem. But otherwise, it's oh, I see an ad for Pineapple Fanta and I get a Pineapple Fanta. No one forced me to buy it. Just like if I see an ad for Expedition 33 that reminds me the game is out, it's not gonna force me to buy the game, it's going to remind me that the game is out. That's what an advertisement's for. I was gonna buy it anyway. But to go back towards EOMM, the whole thing seems to lean way more towards pre-programming your whole life. You will not win because of your own tenacity or skill, you will win because the algorithm decided it was time for you to win to make them more money. And of course, it all just makes you more paranoid about the things you see in the game. A pretty common one is putting players with the characters that you play but with different skins on to make you want to buy those skins, because it seems like very often whenever I play against Moon Knight players, they're always using the Chinese Moon Knight skin. Now of course, this could just be because it's a really good looking legendary skin. Had I not liked the Mr. Knight skin more, I would definitely gotten the Chinese one. But it just makes you wonder, I never see people with the Mr. Knight skin on, or even the Battle Pass skin from last season, but I always see the Chinese skin, the one that I don't have. Of course, these kind of tactics don't work on me specifically, because I'm not going to spend $20 on a fucking skin in a game. I will get the Chinese Moon Knight skin when I have the units for the Chinese Moon Knight skin, which I will get from having played the game. But the fact that it's being implemented at all means that it does work on people, which I just find a little bit dystopian. Forgot to mention that they usually have the other person with the skin on be the best person in the match, so that you see their MVP screen at the end of the game, and making you go, man, I really want to get that skin. Just something I've noticed. And the last thing I wanted to mention about it is that one of the most interesting quotes from the Rivals devs is basically saying that they use EOMM to give players the Marvel superhero fantasy. They're trying to optimize your fun so that you feel like a Marvel superhero. But you know what's a much easier way to do that? Having PvE missions. The children, and adults, yearn for the 2D arcade beat-em-up. I passed on TMNT Shredder's Revenge because I'm just not a huge fan of beat-em-ups, and because, like, I like TMNT, but I'm not, like, a huge fan, especially not of the 80s run. But Marvel's Cosmic Invasion that's coming out later this year is a game I'm probably gonna get my hands on because I like Marvel a lot, and if I want to feel like a Marvel superhero, a 2D beat-em-up is a pretty good way to do it. Though a third-person shooter, where you get to play as, like, 30 different characters, is also a pretty good way to go about it. Unfortunately, Marvel Rivals doesn't have a PvE mode, so unless the Marvel superhero fantasy is getting punched in the back of the head by Iron Fist, I don't think it's really living up so far. Which is why they never say it, but the real answer isn't because of giving people the Marvel superhero fantasy, it's because it makes them more money. That's a simple answer. It makes them more money and they want more money. I'm still gonna play Rivals because I do still have fun with it, and because Ultron's on the horizon, so I have to at least try him first, and because I had a friend give me the Battle Pass, so I kinda have to see that one through. But I'd be lying if I said this didn't have any effect on how often I want to play the game. And in my humble gamer opinion, I don't think this game's gonna last anywhere near as long as Overwatch did, for a multitude of reasons, but this certainly isn't helping it. Which is all for this week, so get out of here.